Well, everybody, it's time again for another episode of the In My Grow Show, the podcast dedicated to taking the mystery out of cannabis. I'm your host, Alex Robles. Now, this is take 2 of the show, because the first time around, apparently I forgot to push record. I just started chatting away. Blah, 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 blah. I even wrapped it up and everything. And I was like, all right, got it. And I looked down and I was all like, fuck, are you kidding me? All right, and I'll go outside and smoke another bowl. So speaking of bowls, this week's strain of the week is LA Confidential. I picked this up, where did I get this at? Oh, I got this at the CBD conference that I went to. There was some dispensary there, and so I decided to pick up a little eighth, have a good time. But the LA Confidential, alright, get into it. Let's see, what are the good things about the LA Confidential? It's a really heady high. I really enjoyed it. I felt it behind my eyeballs first. I always like those kind of highs. And the LA Confidential is also a little piney, a little skunky. But it's a beautifully relaxing high without like couch locking me or bringing me down. I can actually work on it. It feels good. It feels nice. If you see it on the shelf of your local dispensary, or if your local guy's got it, get some LA Confidential. Let's see. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about the differences between a male and a female plant. And I'm also going to talk about what I learned at that CBD conference. And for the report from the Cannabis front line, I'm going to talk to Chelsea from the Sespe Creek Collective. She came on the phone and we had a conversation about what adult use in Ojai actually means. And I've also got some tips for growing in the summertime. Because last weekend, California went through a heat wave. Holy shit. Alright, I gotta tell you. In the shade, it said 115. Alright? Plants don't like it when it's that hot. Hell, humans don't like it when it's that hot. But plants especially. Cannabis plants. There's a couple of things I need to mention about high heat and growing outdoors in the high heat, or just high heat in general indoors too. So that'll be later. But right now, I'm going to talk about a little bit about the differences between a male and a female plant. Because I had some people reach out on social media asking me. First thing I want to say about that is get a book. Get a grow book, please. It'll answer these very basic questions really easily and with a little drawing. Get a grow book. Anything from Jorge Cervantes. Get Greg Green's book, the Cannabis Grow Bible. That's the one I usually ran to when I was learning how to grow. That thing so beat up. Jorge Cervantes books also. Great resources. Alright, so getting into it. The male plant typically is going to be taller than the female plants. Okay? Because they want to grow tall enough so when they have the pollen sacs, when they grow the pollen sacs and they burst open, the pollen sacs can rain down on them the pollen. That's why they want to grow taller than the female plants. Okay. The internodal spacings for male plants, meaning the space between where one leaf or branch grows to the next set of leaf and branch, that's called internodal spacings because those are nodes. That's going to be more, the internodal spacing is going to be larger. What else? Also, the male plant will start to flower 2-3 weeks before the female plant will start to show signs of flower. The male plant's going to show these little cluster, looks like cluster of grapes or actual balls. Those are the pollen sacs. You've got about maybe 7, 8, 10 days before those pollen sacs burst open and drop pollen everywhere. So you've got some time from when they first pop up, but don't dilly-dally if you're not trying to make a seed. Okay? So those are the basic signs of a male plant. The female plant, I always look for the 2 little hairs that are growing just where the leaf grows out of the stem. You know, you'll see these 2 little calyxes. Those are typically the signs that I look for. Okay, now here's how a seed is made. The male drops the pollen on the female. Okay, The female makes resins for a few different reasons. One of them is a pesticide, is an anti-insecticide. Bugs don't want to get all cut up in stickiness. 2, it's a sunscreen. Okay? And the more sun that it gets, the more oil it's going to produce to protect itself. The other reason is to hang on to the pollen till the pollen falls, and it's to make sure that the plant takes in the pollen to make a seed. Now, the reason we don't want it to make seed is because the making of the seed takes energy away from making flour and oil. Okay, that's why we don't want seeds in our flour. Make sense? I hope so. If you have any questions, just email me, inmygrow@gmail.com. Find me on Instagram at inmygrow. I can go over it some more. Like I said, it's not that hard. Good book, has nice, cool colored pictures. Find it. Alright, so next I'm going to talk about that CBD conference I went to. I want to give a shout out to Annette from 805 Buddha Bliss. She does topicals, I think it's like massage oils, some body balms. Thank you for putting that together, and, appreciate it. I learned a lot. I was able to talk to the doctors, answered some questions. So at the conference they had Dr. Thomas Sazani, who gave a talk about the endocannabinoid system, and I'm hoping to get him on the show here soon to talk about, again, the endocannabinoid system and help explain it more to us. I also heard Dr. Margaret Peterson. Now, she's the one who was talking about CBD, and that's the real reason I went. And really cool lady, real approachable afterwards. I'm hoping also to get her on the show here in the future soon to talk more about CBD with us. The other doctor that was there was Dr. David Bierman, and he wrote a book called Drugs Are Not the Devil's Tools, The History of Drugs, Discrimination, Greed, the War on Drugs, and Why Medical Marijuana is Creating a New Paradigm. So he talked also about a lot of the benefits of cannabis. But what I learned from Dr. Peterson was that CBD is a compound, itself. It's the same thing, whether it comes from hemp or it comes from the drug form of cannabis, it's the same compound. The difference comes from, and it's a big difference, comes from the differences of hemp-derived CBD and what's called whole plant CBD, which means it has not just CBD, but it has other compounds like THC, CBN, CBG, because they all work together to really amplify the benefits of taking cannabis oil for different ailments. They've discovered in studies, and a lot of the studies that they've done on CBD is coming out of Israel. And I think I've spoken about this before, the bell curve effect, the effectiveness of drugs. So when you take a drug, it starts out, and then it starts to build and build and becomes more effective until it gets to the peak of effectiveness, right? And it kind of plateaus a bit. And that's how long it takes for the peak effectiveness. And then after a little while, it starts to, curve down and come downward, and the effectiveness goes away. That's basically what the bell curve is for a drug, So what they've discovered is that the effectiveness of CBD, when it has other cannabinoids in it, that bell curve lasts longer, that top plateau lasts longer and is more effective for a longer time than if it's just CBD by itself. It comes up, plateaus for a little bit, and then comes down. So if you're in a state that has a medical program, get yourself some whole plant CBD. I think they also call it full spectrum CBD, or maybe I'm making that part up. Maybe it just sounds really nice. I don't know. But like I was saying, if you're in a state that has a medical program, get yourself some whole plant CBD. You will definitely tell the difference. Don't go to the drugstore. Don't go to the drugstore and get that over-the-counter stuff. It's not going to be as effective. Not only is it not going to be effective or as effective, it's going to make you think that CBD is a lie and a myth. It's not. It's just that it's more effective in its complete form with all the other cannabinoids with it. So if it were me, I'd tell my family to go get a whole plant, a full spectrum, a whole plant CBD. All right, so now I want to talk about growing cannabis outdoors in the summertime. Couple of things you need to know. Okay, it gets really hot in the summertime, folks. You know it does. Now, there's a few things we need to realize, in general. Okay, in general. Cannabis plants just about stop growing at around 85, 90 degrees. Okay, in general. Some strains like more heat. You've got some equatorial strains. Yes, strains from the equator. You've got Thai strains, some Afghani strains. Equatorial strains, they like the heat, but they also like the humidity. Afghani strains, they like the heat, not so much the humidity. So think about that if you're growing outdoors in the summertime, is what kind of strain you're going to want, because it is going to get hot. What I learned from this past heat wave is that the Gorilla Glues don't like it when it's 115, when the ambient air is 115, which means just the surrounding air, even if there's shade over them, they don't want it that hot. They shriveled up and died and said, "I can't do it, Alex. I'm sorry." And they wilted and went away. Yeah, I saw that. I saw that at least on 6 different plants in 3 different greenhouses. But on the other hand, I have a strain called Third Dimension that's from a breeder called Subcool. I've had this strain for about 5 years. I've had this mother actually for about 5 years. Now, not the actual plant. Here's how I clone. I'll have a plant. I'll let it get about 3 feet tall. I'll cut clones. When those clones root, the plant that I cut the clones from, I'll put her out to flower. The best looking clone, I'll raise that one up to do the same thing. Cut clones, and once those clones are good, I'll put her out. So I've had this plant this way for about 5 years. That Third Dimension took the heat like a champ. I had another plant out there that was also across from the Third Dimension and also did great in the heat. So, Subcool, if you're listening, brother, thank you for the work you did on these genetics, man. I don't know if that was part of your intention, but yeah, they really performed a lot better than other plants did in the heat. Alright, moving forward. Let's see. Okay, so yeah, choose your strain properly. Make sure you got a nice summer strain, something that's going to take the heat in your area. Hazes are a good commercial seed. Everybody's, a lot of seed company has some kind of haze cross. Just like I said, do your homework. Make sure that it's crossed with something that's not going to really hate the heat. When you plant your plants outdoors, make sure you plan for shading them somehow, because there are going to be days where they're going to want some kind of filtered light, some kind of dappled sunlight. Okay, so plan for that. And when you plant them, find out in your garden, in your backyard, or wherever you're going to plant, which way the wind blows. Because you're going to want those plants in natural breezeways, so it'll help cool the plant down. Okay, because when the plant gets too hot, the leaves will hang on to that heat. And when it gets above 100 degrees, maybe even less, around 98, a lot of those sugars and compounds that the plant makes and stores in the leaves will just break down and will no longer be plant available. Your plant won't be able to use them. It has to make new compounds and new sugars. It's just going to take more energy. So keep all this in mind. Okay. Watering. You don't want your plants to totally dry out. Alright? The plants are going to, once again, they'll slow down. They need that water. You don't want them to dry out. Another thing that happens when your soil dries out is a lot of your microbial life dies. Okay? And those microbes are what help make the nutrients plant available for the plant. So you don't want that to happen either. Okay, so don't let your soil dry out. On the opposite side of that, you don't want to overwater your plants. You're not going to want that soil really soppy, you're not going to want it over wet. Because that, especially if you're growing in a container, that soil, that wet soil in that container is going to heat up. And it's going to be warm and moist. And that's a breeding ground for bacteria. Okay, so you may cause bacteria if it's too wet. Another thing that may happen is that hot, moist soil holds less oxygen than cool, moist soil. Okay, so also your plant may end up suffocating a bit. It may not have enough air getting through it, enough air circulation getting through the root zone. Okay, so you don't want it dry, you don't want it really wet. There's a nice little sweet spot in there somewhere that you want it at. So pay attention, okay? So too much water isn't good. Not enough water also isn't good. Just keep an eye on it. A little extra potassium in the summertime in the outdoor grows. It helps your plant prepare for drier weather. It helps them, build those systems better. They can transpire or sweat easier. So, add a little more potassium. If you're going to add potassium silicate, don't forget the potassium silicate's good, but it's usually going to push up your pH. Potassium silicate usually comes in around between 10 and 13 on the pH scale. So keep an eye on that with your potassium silicate. Just remember that. So those are just some quick notes that I have for growing in the summertime and growing in the heat. If you have any questions about it, get a hold of me once again. You can email me inmygrow@gmail.com. Find me on Instagram @inmygrow. So I'm going to take a short break, have some water. When I come back, I'm going to have that interview with Chelsea. So hang tight, listen to some music, and I shall be back.
Ladies and gentlemen, as I promised, I've got a special guest on the phone with me today, my buddy Chelsea, who is the owner of Sespe Creek Collective. Chelsea, how are you doing today?
Good, Alex. How are you?
You know what? I'm real excited that I've got you on the show today. I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me because I know you got a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right on. So let's see here. Our little mountain community of Ojai, the city council decided to allow adult use or recreational sales of cannabis.
Yes.
Which is pretty amazing, especially amazing that it passed by the margins that it did, a 4-1 vote. I mean, that's pretty progressive for this small town.
It is.
So what does, now that it's already going to be a reality around here, what exactly is adult use? What is that going to look like?
Well, basically, so anybody with an ID that's 21 and over, that can show that they're 21 and over, would be allowed to make purchases in our store within the guidelines that the Bureau of Cannabis Control has established. So up to 1 ounce of dried flower per day. I think it's up to a couple. Honestly, I got to get up to speed on the adult use sales limits or concentrates too, because I know it's slightly different than medical use. But otherwise, prices will be the same. Ojai didn't implement any special tax at this point, so it's basically just slight differences in the potency of certain products that adult use patients can buy. I still call them patients because I feel like all use is medical, but basically you won't need to jump through the hoop anymore of getting your doctor's recommendation in order to benefit from most of the products we carry. So we're excited about that.
So then there isn't going to be any real price difference for medical or recreational. It's all just going to be...
Not in Ojai. The only price difference you'll see is if you're a medical patient and you've gone the extra step of getting your county health department issued state ID card to participate in the medical marijuana identification card program. Then you are exempt from state sales tax, which in our case is 7.25%.
Oh wow!
So that's the savings. If you're a medical patient and you spend, I think it was around $250 a month, we determined that it would be worth it for you to get the card to save that money. But otherwise, there's really no difference. Yeah.
So now you mentioned something about is there a concentrations level difference for recreation and medical, or it's all also the same?
Yeah, so there's a class of products called sublinguals and concentrates. These are really medical products that a lot of our patients are coming for, and so the concentration limits for medical patients in a one package of those can be up to 2,000 milligrams of cannabis, or THC, I believe is what they're actually measuring, is milligrams of THC. And then for adult use patients or customers, it would be 1,000 milligrams, so half of that. So it's not a huge difference. It's 1,000 milligrams of THC is still pretty potent, but within that one package, medical patients are being afforded a little bit higher potencies.
Yeah, you can still have a good time with 1,000 milligrams.
You sure can, yeah. But flowers are the same. Everybody's getting the same flowers. There won't be much difference. Everything is the same for edibles. All the serving size is still 10 milligrams per dose and 100 milligrams in the package.
Right.
Yeah.
So now this is all going to come kind of sudden because, and I'm just wondering, is how is this going to affect your inventory? Because I also know in July we got a whole new set of regulations that everything on the shelf had to be tested.
Yes, phase 2 tested. So what we had on our shelves was already tested and phase 1 compliant, but now phase 2 compliance is rolling out. And so people had to kind of get compliant with that or pull their product back until those second round of testing had come in and they could re-sticker it and then put it back out again. The state's pretty much streamlined a lot of the inventory concerns that we were having initially with 2 licensing structures. Now you can pretty much sell the same inventory to both adult and medical use consumers. Those higher potency products will have to be additionally stickered if they're not already for medical use only when they go out the door. So there's really just some fine, tiny details now and how the 2 different sets of consumers are treated. But for the most part, it's not going to be too unmanageable for us. Yeah, it's for us. We're just still turning away a lot of people every day that don't have a medical recommendation. So we wanted to be able to serve everybody that is looking for this medicine.
Absolutely.
And yeah, now we'll be able to do it. So we're looking forward to that.
All right. So now the last obvious question is, how long before anybody can come up to your dispensary up to Sespe Creek and buy their cannabis?
Well, without a recommendation, we're not 100% sure yet, but the ordinance goes into effect 30 days from yesterday, which was when the second reading passed. So 30 days, we should be able to have a very clear idea. If we're not opening, right then, I would anticipate it would be very shortly thereafter. We're just going to have to get a quick signature off from the city manager, and then we'll have to get an additional license indication on our application at the state level, but that process should be pretty streamlined. So I'm anticipating between mid and late August we'll be open for adult use sales.
As you're saying that, I'm over here smiling like, yeah, mid-August. That's so great.
Yeah, it's sooner than you know.
Yeah, it'll go by pretty quick.
Yeah.
Well, Chelsea, thanks for taking the call. That's all of the notes and the questions I have. Do you want to talk about anything or mention anything?
We're happy that it's not just in Ojai, but Port Hueneme is now open for adult use sales. I'll just say that I was really not, I really wasn't focused on adult use sales. I'm still not focused on it. I'm still focused on medical patients, and we won't really change anything about our approach or our product line offerings. We just wanted to be able to continue offering that at a high level of service. So we're really excited that this will open up the door for a lot more people that didn't want to go through that hassle. I just think this is a great thing that Ojai has embraced it, and I'm looking forward to seeing everybody in the shop.
Right on. Well, so why don't you go ahead and tell everybody how they can find you or Sespe Creek?
Sure. Well, we're online at sespe.org. It's SESPE.org. You can also find us at 408 Bryant Circle in Unit C in Ojai, just past the Humane Society. And lots of parking. We're open 10 to 7, Monday through Saturday, 10 to 5 on Sundays. And they also got, the city council decided to vote down the appointment rule. So people no longer need appointments to come in. You can just walk in. And we've never had a problem.
That's a ridiculous rule. That was a ridiculous rule, an appointment rule.
It was a special and a unique rule that Ojai created.
That's like saying, I'm going to go to a bar, let me see if they have a bench open for me.
Yes, at least they realized it wasn't necessary, so that's...
that's true. They saw kind of how ridiculous it actually was. Hey, so kind of on that same vein then, so the next logical step would be consumption lounges, right?
Yes.
Some cannabis lounges?
That is the next logical step, yes.
Because the cops, let's just, talking about it on the tourist side, the cops don't want to see tourists smoking on the street.
No.
Or in their
there's
cars.
A lot of people, there's people that live in federally funded housing that aren't allowed to consume it in their own homes.
Yeah, no, because they'll lose their housing.
So we would love to offer those people a place to safely consume something.
Yeah. Right.
But right now we're really just happy. I'm not pushing anything. I'm just happy that things are going well. There hasn't been any problems. I really feel like we've just been here helping and educating the community about the benefits, and things are going well. So we're just going to ride with that for right now.
Yeah, no, we got to take it one step at a time. We don't want to push too fast because people start to clench up. People start to clench up and like, oh, wait.
Well, I think it's up to the people to come to the meetings and ask for that. I think that if it comes from industry all the time, they just assume it's about us making money. And it's really, no, we're just bringing the demand to you and letting you know what people are asking for. It's just representing the people. But I think if you want to see it, you got to make it happen. You got to encourage your listeners out there to get up and write letters and show up to city council and say, we really want this.
Yes. You see everybody show up to city council meetings. I know they're boring. But
sometimes they're fascinating.
They are. Yes. No, sometimes. Sometimes they are, but then you always get that guy who's going to complain about the crack in front of the sidewalk.
Yes.
And you got to give him his 3 minutes, but you still got to show up.
Yeah.
You still got to show up.
That's how we made this happen. That's how I am where I am today, is showing up and getting through the boring parts.
Right on. Well, hey,
your mind.
I appreciate you being the cannabis warrior that you are.
Thank you so much, Alex.
I also appreciate you taking the time to talk to me. Don't go anywhere. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Folks, I'm going to take a short break, and then I'll be back with the rest of the show.
Well, brothers and sisters, I'm back. I want to thank Chelsea for getting on the phone with me and talking to me. And that's all I have for you today. Don't forget, if you want to support the show financially, if this show has educated you or entertained you at all, and you're able to support the show financially, go to patreon.com, find the In My Grow show, and donate what you can. If you can't help support the show financially, don't worry about it. But do me a favor, just tell 3 other people about the show. That's it. Real simple, real easy. Now, if you're a company that wants your product reviewed or any of your services reviewed, you can email me at inmygrow@gmail.com, or you can find me on Instagram at inmygrow. Well, everyone, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. And I want to thank my buddy Roy Jones for letting me borrow the Buenos Dias studios again today. Brother, I hope you feel better soon. I love and appreciate all of you showing up and listening to me. And don't forget to always grow, learn, and teach. Especially teach each other.